Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Gabrielle Ray and I present cases of missing persons, the unidentified, and unsolved homicides. Today I'll be presenting the double disappearance of Bernard Rusness Jr. and Peggy Parmenter Rusness out of Wolf Lake, Minnesota. They have been missing since April 3rd, 1976, and Peggy's date of birth is unknown. But she is a white female who stands at 5'4" and weighs 118 pounds. Her eye color is unknown, but her hair color is brown. And Bernard was born on April 22nd, 1926. He is a white male who stands at 5'10" to 5'11", weighs 165 pounds, with hazel eyes and brown hair. She wears glasses and may use her former married name, McKay. He was last seen wearing a gold watch on his left wrist and gold or silver ring with a square emerald on his left index finger. He has pellet scars in his groin area from a hunting accident, and his nickname is Russ. He has a noticeable injury to his left eye, which resembles a lazy eye, a receding hairline, and wears wire-rimmed glasses. She was 41 years old at the time of her disappearance, and he was 49 years old. They both worked at a car dealership in Fargo, North Dakota, and commuted 70 miles to work each day. They lived quietly and did little socializing, and they lived in the rural community of Wolf Lake, where everyone knows everyone. They were decent and inoffensive people. The two lived together in Fargo and the Twin Cities and in Rapid City, South Dakota, before they moved to Wolf Lake. And the only people they really regularly socialized with were Ruth and Roy Marsh. The house in which they were living originally belonged to Peggy's mom, and Peggy moved in there originally to care for her in 1974 when she was sick. Bernard visited on the weekends. Less than 1 year later, her mom died, and Bernard moved into the home with Peggy. At the time of their disappearance, the couple had recently finished remodeling their home. Although the family lived in a small town, they didn't socialize very often, and the neighbors did not know much about them. Contrary to what they told people, they were not legally married. Bernard never divorced his wife, who lived in Fargo, North Dakota, and Peggy's former husband also lived in North Dakota. Peggy and Bernard also have other children living in the area, such as Ben, who was 35 at the time of their disappearances, and Brian, who was 8 years old. Brian's neighbor and babysitter, Marilyn Schwartzrock, described Peggy as a very protective mother and would never hurt him intentionally. Peggy always walked Brian out to the mailbox to wait for the school bus, said neighbor Jeanette Mickelson, and reiterated that she was very, very protective of him. Brian was their pride and joy, she says, and Bernard also did odd jobs for Jeanette when he had spare time. They both disappeared from their Wolf Lake farm, and they went to the grocery store together, and later, at 4:00 p.m., Bernard was leveling his driveway. Between 11:30 p.m. and midnight, neighbors noticed the house was on fire, burnt to the ground, and nothing could be saved. Neighbor Kevin Mickelson was driving by and noticed the house on fire. It had to have been burning for a good 20 minutes before I got there, maybe more. I later found out that Tony Beck, my cousin, was there for a few minutes earlier. He tried to break down the door, but he said that the fire and smoke was already too much, claimed Kevin. Another neighbor, Alice Hendrick, also called the Wolf Lake Fire Department too. 10 volunteer firefighters, tanker trucks, and a pumper truck arrived to put out the fire. Law enforcement and neighbors spent the next 2 weeks screening and sifting through the ashes using a 1/2-inch thick mesh screening. Unfortunately, they found Brian's body in his bedroom, and Brian was most likely asleep at the time and never even knew that he was going to be deceased. The law enforcement also found the remains of their two dogs in the ashes as well. Bernard and Peggy were nowhere to be found, and the fire marshals concluded that they survived the blaze. A skull was also found in the debris, but it was not Peggy or Bernard's. And it was found later that the skull was given to Peggy by her mother to use as a planter. Police were still trying to determine whether or not Brian died in the blaze or before. And they also could never find the cause of the fire itself. They haven't determined how the fire started, but believe that it started on the second floor. All of the family vehicles were found in the driveway with the keys in the ignition of each one. The hood was up on their four-wheel drive Ford pickup truck as Bernard was installing a sound system into it. $1,000 in cash was left in their bank accounts, and they never picked up their last paychecks from work. Evidence suggests that they didn't plan to set the house on fire because of the fact that Bernard was working on his stereo system and the hood was up, suggesting that there was more work to do. Their clothing and luggage were also gone along with them, and a gun believed to have been taken from the home, which was Bernard's .38 caliber in his collection, was found in St. Louis, Missouri. But the number didn't match, and the gun was reportedly destroyed before Ben could check it. This does not seem like a random crime, and 34 people combed the nearby woods and swamps, but no traces of them were ever found. Many rumors floated around as to what happened to them. A resident of Wolf Lake told officials that a small plane may have landed in the area and they could have left in it, but their neighbor, Lyle Mickelson, says that this is impossible because of the dense fog, and the ground resembled a marsh, making landing and taking off very difficult. Reports say that there was a religious cult headquarters near Wolf Lake, and a calf with its throat slit was found near their farm once, but they were not part of the cult themselves. Some also say that they purposely destroyed their home, but since they just remodeled the house, why would they purposely destroy it? My grandfather believes that they're still alive, but I do not know many others that do, said Ben. Ben, who is an insurance salesman in Omaha, Nebraska, believes that his dad died years ago, but he'd like the investigation to still continue. My feelings are that somebody came up on the place, surprised them, and then took them away at gunpoint. A body of a woman was found nearby, which was originally believed to have been Peggy, but the teeth did not match. Ben says that the police totally screwed up the investigation. It seemed to be a lackadaisical investigation, and they didn't do much of anything, such as debate whether or not Brian died before or after the fire, how the fire started, etc. And according to some locals, police may have been involved with some shady stuff, and the dogs may have been killed to stop them from making any noise as opposed to dying in the fire. Becker County Sheriff's Office purposely muddled up the case to cover up their involvement, said a comment on strangeco.blogspot.com from R. Rusness. The triple homicide was covered up by Becker County Sheriff's Department, they also said. Somebody by the name of T. Rusness also claims to be their granddaughter. I haven't heard from him in several years, and he used to call me once a week. Let the matter rest, said Margaret Rusness, Bernard's ex-wife. They may not be alive, but something had to happen to them. I've got to know. I'm obsessed with this, and so are a lot of people, said Ben. There are just so many questions, and darn, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe this could happen in a big city like Minneapolis, but not in a place like this, and not in this day and age, said George Parmenter, Peggy's brother. Until proven otherwise, I've got to believe that they're still alive somewhere using aliases. But after 7 years, we still feel like we're starting from scratch, said State Fire Marshal Rusty Tallman. In 1983, Ben told the Star Tribune that they might not be alive, but something had to happen to them. I've got to know. For both Bernard and Peggy, dentals, DNA, and fingerprints are available. Foul play is suspected in their case, and a family member said that they know who's responsible and claim that he knows some people are responsible and not just one. Peggy would be 86 years old today, and Bernard would be 95 years old. That is all the information that I could find on the missing persons cases of Bernard Rusness Jr. and Peggy Parmenter Rusness. This case absolutely baffles me because there's absolutely no trace of them, and there hasn't been any trace of them since the fire. And it's just unbelievable that they could go anywhere and start a new life, quote unquote, with no vehicle, no money. And, they may have taken some clothes and luggage, but for the most part, they didn't have much of anything to start with that could base off starting a new life. And as for the fact that they started the fire themselves, I don't believe that that's the case because, like many people said, Peggy was a very protective mother of Brian, and I don't think she would just let him die in the fire. I personally believe, and this is just my own opinion, not any proven fact, that I believe that Brian may have been dead before the fire was started. Especially because he was found soundly in his bed without waking up to any knowledge of the fire. But I hope that whatever happened to him happened quickly and painlessly, because I hate hearing children dying or anything bad happening to them. Their spirit is so free and just so innocent that anything bad happening to them makes my stomach turn. And I also just want to say that Wolf Lake was a very rural area, and there is a lot of places that they could have disappeared and or their bodies could be buried without them finding any remains. And it's very shocking to me that over these years they haven't found any leads or any clues about this case when it's evident that somebody somewhere knows something about where these two are. I personally am dumbfounded as to what happened in this case, and I just hope one day that the family gets some closure and some peace, and if necessary, some justice. Once again, Peggy was a white female who stood at 5'4" and weighed 118 pounds, with unknown colored eyes and brown hair, and an unknown date of birth as well. Bernard was born on April 22nd, 1926. He is a white male who stood at 5'10" to 5'11" and weighs 165 pounds. He has hazel eyes and brown hair. And if you or anybody you know have any information on this case, please contact the Becker County Sheriff's Office at 218-847-2661. And Peggy's agency case number is 09005201. And Bernard's agency case number is 76000463. Peggy's NAMUS case number is 12304, and Bernard's NAMUS case number is MP12305. I know many years have passed since this disappearance has occurred, But it's just as important that we get this information out today because somebody's conscience may be eating away at them, or somebody might have what they think is a very small piece of information that can end up breaking the case wide open. It's very important that we keep this case in the public eye no matter how much time has passed, because this is still an unsolved mystery. And it's just still important. Period. It's still important. One of these days, I really hope that this case is solved for the family and for the community as a whole. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful night.